Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast, episode 135. Mike Kafka, NFL quarterback, newbie hunter, deer hunting questions for the Big Buck Registry staff, and Super Bowl 50 predictions. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
Hey, this is Matt Duff.
And Jeff Danker.
We're Major League Bow Hunter, and you're listening to the best podcast on the internet, the Big Buck Registry.
Hey everybody, this is Taylor Drury from Drury Outdoors, and you can follow us on our official Drury Outdoors Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter account. You're listening to my favorite deer hunting podcast on the internet, Big Buck Registry, Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast.
So my name is Jason Coger. I'm from Owensboro, Kentucky, and I represent the Jason Coger Foundation. You're listening to my favorite broadcast of all time, Big Buck Registry.
Welcome to another episode of the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. My name is Jay, and
my name is Dusty.
What's happening, brother?
Oh man, just trying to get things. I'm trying to hang one more doe in my garage before season ends. Think it can happen?
I know it can happen because you're one of the world's greatest deer hunters ever.
I hope you're right.
And you tell us that story. What happened there? How did that all play out?
The Metro Parks contacted me and said they got a opening, like ASAP, and they asked if I wanted to do it, and I said, heck yeah, I'm in. So
you basically got another tag when it came down to it.
Well, I still had a tag. I can kill actually 4 more deer in Ohio, but one particular county I was tagged out in. Now I'm moving to a adjoining county. I can kill 2 more deer. So my hopes is 1 more deer, but if the opportunity for 2 comes about, I will go about it correctly, kill my first deer, call, tag it in, and go buy another tag and try to shoot another one. But don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm hoping to get 1 more big mature doe in my freezer. How about that?
God bless you, man. Can't wait to come down and enjoy some fare with you again.
God bless America.
God bless America.
God bless all of our fans and everybody that tunes in with us every week.
Reach out to everybody who's listening to this right now. It's just a pleasure being here with you every single week. And you just give us this opportunity to express ourselves about deer hunting. And hopefully we're providing for you some of the best content we can, bringing it to you and finding some, whether you're a brand new deer hunter or an old codger like ourselves, just trying to keep it going. And if hopefully somewhere in all this, we're actually delivering some knowledge that and piece of information that you've never heard before, coming up with a tactic or recovering some hot new story, whatever it is. We're hoping that it's benefiting you in the deer woods.
Yeah, it's always super cool to have somebody message in, tell us that they were successful because of something that they heard right here on the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast. That means a ton to us, and that's why we do this.
That's exactly why we do this, because people are out there listening to the show and telling us that the reason that they were successful is because of something they picked up here on the podcast. So before we get into this week's guest, I would like to turn the show over to Jim Keller with the Deer News.
For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News. Our first story is about a new Arkansas state record buck. Jacob Aycock, 33, of Tiller, Arkansas, has broken the 40-year-old Arkansas whitetail state record for a typical buck. Jacob shot the buck on November 20th in Drew County. His Boone and Crockett net score of 195 2/8 beat the previous record of 189 set by Thomas Sparks in 1975. The buck is a 13-point with a 21.5-inch spread and a main beam that measured 29 2/8 inches long. The gross score before deductions was 212 7/8. Excluding Texas, Jacob's buck is the largest buck ever killed in the South. According to Boone and Crockett, Jacob's buck is the 57th largest typical buck ever killed. Brian Hendricks Hendricks wrote a great article telling the whole story on this deer for the Northwest Arkansas Gazette. Check it out at www.nwaonline.com. Our next story is about a California man sentenced for illegally taking deer. This story is from the Lake County News. In Lakeport, California, Warren Nile Fox has been convicted of illegally killing a deer. Fox killed 2 black-tailed deer on Cobb Mountain in northwestern California. Fox killed the deer on August 18th and was convicted on December 14th, 2015. The deer were illegally killed over a pile of grain that Fox had placed within 20 yards of where he was hunting. California law requires a hunter to hunt no closer than 400 yards from a baited area. Fox was charged with illegally taking a deer within 400 yards of a baited area, waste of a game animal, failure to tag a deer after killing it, and illegal possession of deer. California also has stiffer penalties for illegally taking quote-unquote trophy animals. One of the deer, a 4x4 blacktail, measured 145 inches, which is trophy class, further increasing his penalties. Judge Michael Lunas placed Fox on 3 years probation, revoked his hunting privileges for 3 years, and ordered him to pay a fine of $8,530. For the full article, please visit www.lakeconews.com. Our next story is about insurance company ranking states on likelihood of car-deer accidents. Of all 50 states, 20 stand out for their likelihood of a motorist experiencing a collision with a white-tailed deer. These 20 states have been identified by State Farm Insurance and also includes the odds of having such an encounter. In descending order, here are the top 20 states: Nebraska, Kansas, Georgia, Ohio and Alabama tied, Missouri, Maryland and North Dakota tied, Wyoming, Arkansas and Kentucky tied, North Carolina, Michigan, South Carolina, Virginia and Minnesota tied, Wisconsin, Mississippi, South Dakota, Montana, Pennsylvania, and the number one state where you might most likely hit a white-tailed deer is West Virginia. The odds of hitting a deer in the top 50 states are Mississippi 1.19%, South Dakota 1.22%, Montana 1.33%, Pennsylvania 1.14%, West Virginia 2.56% at number one. This story also provided the likely insurance rate increase after an accident. For the full story, which was reported by Jeff Frischkorn, please visit www.outdoornews.com. The National Deer Alliance names its first CEO. The National Deer Alliance has named Nick Pinizzotto as its first president and CEO. Nick's recent employment history includes serving as CEO for both the Sportsman's Alliance and the Delta Waterfowl Association. Nick officially began his new role on December 1st, 2015. For more information about Nick and the NDA, please visit www.nationaldeeralliance.com. And just a reminder that license application deadlines are fast approaching. If you're planning to deer hunt in another state, especially out west, applications will be coming due over the next few months. If you're planning to travel out of state for a deer hunt or any other hunting in 2016, a very useful website is www.huntingreport.com. If you add a /permit_deadlines.cfm at the end of that website, you'll get a list of states and their deadlines. That concludes this week's edition of the Big Buck Registry's Deer News. If you have any ideas for future topics or have questions about any of these topics, please email me at jim@bigbuckregistry.com. For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Well, thanks to Jim for joining us on the Big Buck Podcast and giving us the deer news of the week. So our guest this week, Dusty, is Mike Kafka. And Mike is, I guess he's been around the NFL for quite a while, for several years now. And he's an NFL quarterback. He's had an interesting life in football, but now he's turning to a life of the outdoors in addition to football. And he started a company called Roo Outdoors, and he's trying to come up with some products for hunters and athletes to use outside. And oddly enough, which is a little different for this show, Mike has actually never gone hunting, but wants to. So what I thought we should do, because we've never done this before, we wanted to mix it up a little bit, is we'd get Mike's view as a novice coming into this outdoor world and learning about hunting and letting him ask us questions about what we know about deer hunting. And certainly, we've got some, I don't know how many years you've been hunting exactly, but I bet if we added our years together, you're probably talking about 60 something years of hunting.
Yeah, you're probably right there, right. And the great thing is that I'm no better than anybody else out there that hunts. I've been real super lucky and real fortunate to be on some good ground that holds some mature big antlered whitetails. Right. And I'm gonna tell Mike no different than I tell anybody else that would ask me the question. And I know you'll do the same, Jay, and be truthful and honest. And and it's going to be a great podcast to maybe learn a few little things as a new hunter, asking questions to some guys that's been in the woods for a little while.
Yeah. And certainly, you know, we've been in the woods for a long time. We've been successful and unsuccessful at times. And I think the unsuccesses are probably more important than the success aspects of deer hunting because we learn a lot from it.
For sure.
And they're certainly screwed up many a times in the deer woods. And there's also been these moments, especially on the show over the last 3 years, that we've actually acquired so much more knowledge and thought about things that I'd never even thought about before. So all that stuff is in our heads, and it's time for us to let it out and let Mike ask the questions. And you know, we'll hear what he's got going on, not only in the NFL, where he's going with his career, but where he's going with his new business called Roo Outdoors. So
yeah, should be real interesting, Jay. And, you know, it's going to be super beneficial for somebody that's just getting into the hunting world as far as the whitetail aspect of it.
Yes, very much so. So without further ado, here's Mike Kafka. Mike Kafka, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks, Jay and Dusty. Thanks for having me.
Just like to have you, Mike. This is it's a pleasure. We've been reading up on your career, and I'm positive I've seen you on television at least a half dozen times over the last several years.
Yeah.
So I'm a big football fan. Dusty is from Ohio. I'm in New Hampshire. I'm a Patriots, longtime Patriots fan. Dusty, and I'm not going to put any words into Dusty's mouth. Dusty, you can answer this question. Are you a football fan?
You know, college football, yeah, I kind of follow the Buckeyes a little bit, college football. Yeah. You know, and I got to say, if I'm going to watch an NFL game, I'm going back to Emmitt Smith days. And
oh, yeah.
I'm still a Cowboys fan because of him.
That's awesome. Yeah, those guys back in the day, that was the best ball to watch, too. I agree.
Yeah. And, you know, it's kind of that stuck with me. And you know, I see people jump around year after year who wins the Super Bowl and who gets close to the Super Bowl. And I've been kind of stuck with the Cowboys since, you know, my teenage years and just always been a fan of the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm going with Cowboys for NFL.
Very nice.
Gotcha.
Very nice.
So, Mike, tell us about yourself. Where are you from originally?
So I'm from Chicago. Born and raised in Chicago, and ended up actually going to college up in Northwestern, just a few miles north of the city.
Sure.
And after Northwestern, I got drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles in 2010. I was there for a number of years and kind of went around the league a little bit. Was in New England, Tampa Bay, Minnesota, and just finished up with Cincinnati. And so at this point, I've made some good relationships in the NFL, and I was able to do some really fun things off the field as well, and started my own company, Roo Outdoors.
Gotcha. All right. So you started playing when you were young, I would assume.
Yeah, I started actually in third grade.
Third grade. All right. So give us a visual. What was that like? What was that? What were you doing in third grade? Were you a quarterback back then, or were you playing lineman?
Yeah, no, actually I played running back.
Okay. I
didn't start playing quarterback till really my sophomore year in high school. I was always a running back or a receiver, and I played a little bit. It's my sophomore year, and then my junior and senior year, I really got into it, and quarterbacking was really my position with all the leadership and athletic ability I had. That's really what kind of led me down that path.
Your best athletes are usually the quarterback, right? In a lot of ways.
I think in the high school level for sure, and then as you get older, then it starts leaning towards the faster guys on the outside with the running backs, receivers, tight ends,
right?
Those kind of But I think really in high school, you want your best athletes,
right?
In key positions at quarterback and running back.
Right. So let's face it, Tom Brady isn't exactly the most explosive runner in the world.
That's true. That is true. I wouldn't say that's his best asset.
Right. Exactly. So you played at third grade on the playgrounds, and then you kind of played football throughout your life. What was high school like?
Well, high school was awesome. We had a great team. We made the playoffs every year, and we never won the state championship, but we always had really good teams and guys that went on to play college ball. We had, every year we'd have 5 or 6 guys going to play college ball, which was always awesome for a program.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really, really pretty cool, and really a lot of competition and a lot of great guys and memories.
Very interesting. Well, so what made you choose Northwestern coming out of high school?
Right. Well, honestly, I thought it was just the best fit for me as far as academics and athletics. It was, they're obviously in the Big Ten, highly competitive, and the academics was something that, it takes me past just my playing days in college. And that was really important to me, and definitely my family is, they really wanted me to get a good education, and Northwestern fit all of those things that I wanted to do.
Okay. Very nice. Now, back in high school, because you were the star quarterback, how was life back then? I mean, were you the most popular guy on campus?
In high school or college?
Yeah, or both, I guess.
Oh, both.
Because I guess that could occur in both settings.
Yeah, you know what? I tried to stay out of the spotlight as much. I mean, obviously, when you're the quarterback, it's hard to not be kind of thrust into the forefront of the team and social events and stuff like that. But I think I tried to share the love with everyone, and I always felt more comfortable with more people around me and enjoying all the success we'd have.
Okay, all right. It's a humble place to be. It's a very some of these quarterbacks like Cam Newton, for example, seems to be wanting to be in the spotlight all the time. So you're not that guy. You're kind of a little more laid back from what you're saying.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay.
I definitely say
all right, that's cool. Now you have to be good to be drafted in the NFL, and you are an NFL quarterback. You've been there. So how did draft day go for you?
It was actually really cool. I was in San Jose visiting my brother, and I kind of had an idea when I was going to get drafted for the most part, and it was really just a dream come true and an awesome opportunity to go and earn a spot in the NFL, something I've been dreaming about for a really long time. And to have it all kind of come together the way it did and get drafted by Philly, which is such a great organization, I thought it was a really cool experience and something I'll really never forget.
Gotcha. Now, Adam Vinatieri, I'm assuming you know who that guy is.
Yes.
He tells me that the quarterback is by far the most important position on the field.
I would agree.
Would you agree with that?
100%.
Okay. Because you're the one guy that, other than the center, that touches the ball on every offensive play.
Yep.
No matter what.
Right. And you're the one who's in charge of getting everyone lined up right and making the right decisions with the football and really scoring points. And really, you're really that engine and the heartbeat, of the offense on getting guys, jacked up to go and play and all those type of things. So there's definitely a lot on the shoulders, a lot of responsibility on the shoulders of a quarterback.
Gotcha. So you played in Philadelphia for a few years?
Yeah, I was there for 3 years.
3 years, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we had Trent Cole was on the show not too long ago. I don't know if you know Trent.
Oh yeah, and good friends with Trent.
Yeah, he's a big outdoor guy. Has his own TV show, Blitz TV. He's a hunter.
Yeah. I just missed him. I was at SHOT Show just last week.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, he was out there. So you play football during the fall because that's when football is being played, and then it goes from somewhere in August all the way through January if you're in the playoffs.
Yep.
So,
that's typically the schedule. Yep.
So you really, if you're on that schedule, other than maybe a day or two here and there, and this is the Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast, you have not had a chance really to get out and hunt during your career.
Right. It's really difficult because, the time constraints that a quarterback has, he's always in there early and staying late at the facility. It's really difficult, especially in prime hunting season.
Right. But you are an outdoor enthusiast. I mean, you obviously play in an outdoor environment, but off the field, tell us about your experiences off the field in the great outdoors.
Yeah. And you know what? I've never been hunting, and I'm super interested, would love to go. And I guess that's where I would really love to kind of learn some more information and really get like the insider info on how do I approach this when I'm trying to move forward and go after it.
Okay.
So I'd love to actually ask you guys some questions.
I think that's an interesting spin, Dusty. Are you down for this, Dusty? Because I
think I'm down. It's something different, Jay. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to hear it from obviously some professionals and guys who've been doing it for a really long time. I love to learn. I got my notebook out. What do you guys say?
All right. I'm down for that. Now, I have to preface this to say that I'm not a professional hunter. I just play one on the radio. All right. But I have learned a ton over the last 2.5 years talking to other hunters. I've hunted my entire life, so I don't think I'm a bad hunter. But I've learned so much more from listening to podcasts about hunting, whether it's this show, interviewing people on our show, or listening to other hunting podcasts. I can't say that I've even just reading stuff. I think I've learned more on being on this show than I have ever learned talking to other people.
Oh, very cool.
So I'm ready to put that to the test to see what kind of knowledge I actually have retained.
Let's do it.
Sometimes I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, let's do this. All right.
Ready? Let's see if I can get you on a couple here. All right. So the first question I have is, when I'm getting ready, I'm looking to get my gear set out, laid out the night before. What are what do you think, the top 3 most essential pieces that you think I would need? Or maybe it's not 3, maybe it's, you need these things every time you go out. Okay. What would you think?
Dusty, you want to handle that first? Or I have some ideas, but I wanted to.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Okay.
Number one for me, we're saying that we're headed to the woods the next morning. Is that the question?
Yeah, we're going, let's just put it under deer hunting. Next morning, we're getting ready and, getting ready to go out for the hunt.
Well, my preparation boils down to, is my bow sighted in or my gun sighted in? That's probably my top factor the night before to maybe release a couple arrows, or if we got somewhere that we can send a rifle round downrange or a slug or whatever we're going to use. So, key factor there is to have your equipment dialed in so that if the opportunity presents itself, you're going to make a good, clean, ethical kill. Second of all, I go through my gear, camouflage, make sure that all my gear is either bagged up, packed up, or whatever I carried in, or however I'm going to the woods with it. Run through your face mask, your jacket, pants, focus on a little bit of scent control as you're packing away, or if it's something that, you already got packed away, just maybe break the box open, pull it all out, make sure you got everything, put it back in.
I have a quick, just to add on to that, for the camo, when you're picking out your camo, do you have a specific way that you pick out your camo? Is it based on, if it's snowing out? Because I know there's some camos out there that, that have a snow in the pattern, or if it's, all the camos are a little bit different. Is there one that you prefer over another? Or do you think it's just, based on where you're located at? How do you pick your camo?
Yeah, definitely. You touch base on pretty much all the scenarios. One going to be location. Different states call for different camo. No camo is the same pretty much.
Interesting.
Right now I'm using mossy oak breakup for myself, but you can definitely go out, check the pre-flight, the area where you're going to be hunting. And, there's camo for every zone in the United States and overseas or wherever you're headed. But there's different brands, different styles. It's, it's all about what fits for you and what works in the elements that you're going to be hunting in.
Okay.
Back to the top 3. Number 3 on my list is going to be, you got my mind thinking here. Number 3 on my list is thinking about safety. Going to a tree stand setup. If I'm going into a tree stand, I want to make sure that my harness is rigged up right. I want to make sure that once I get it on, that everything's going to be ready to go to the woods. Because a lot of times you're walking out in the morning, it's going to be dark out, and you're going to walk in, you're going to clip in, you're going to sit down in your tree stand, and that's something that you don't want to walk in, clip in, and have something fail on you. And
right.
You have a bad accident or even a fatal accident.
Now that I kind of want to step back again. So when you're picking your tree stand, is it kind of, you're just rolling the dice, or is this something that you map out, months in advance or years in advance, or is this something that's just kind of passed down? This is an area, or are there certain indicators that you look for to set up your tree stand?
Let's kind of start this whole conversation over a little bit. First is getting, if you're in a state where you need written permission, let's get that out of the way. Find a landowner or a family friend, whoever you can find, or maybe it's the neighbor or somebody recommends to go hunt a piece of woods. But you need to get your permission to get some kind of layout of the land. Either it's going to be a Google map layout. Once you get your map and you get your permission, and you need to look at your map, and then you start laying out 4 or 5 areas that you think visually. When I say visually, is going to be either a natural crossing of a waterway or a valley, deer have a tendency to go in low areas so that the visual line from above, they want to travel unseen. So visually on the map, you pick out 4 or 5 different areas that you want to check out. And there's always going to be that 1 or 2 that you didn't see on the map that really catches your attention. And that's the way I look at it. So then once you get your map and you get your permission, you can access the land. You go in there and you just do almost like a virtual tour visually and walk around and check out this place. And most areas are going to tell you where the deer activity are, whether it's going to be heavy underbrowsing of the leaves in one particular area. Say you walk out into a crop field and there's a lot of damage along the edge of the woods where the deer have just literally tore the crops down, ate the beans off. All the leaves are gone. There's nothing but stems of soybeans. Or you can go in, you can see where the corn ears have been ripped back on the field corn.
Oh, interesting.
Where the deer is actually, went in and stripped the corn back and ate the corn right off the ear. And most of the time, deer won't knock the corn over. They'll actually pull the husk back off the ear, eat the corn right off the cob on the stem of the standing corn.
Oh,
you're on this piece of property. You've kind of walked around and you're starting to see some trails. And by trails, I mean you want to see heavily hooved areas. Say it's a fence crossing. And where the deer jump a fence, usually they're going to leave a hoof mark. So that's going to advertise to you that, hey, there's deer crossing here. Suggestion is get online and find out what a deer hoof doe versus buck looks like. Educate yourself on that. And then once you find maybe some crossings and some corridors, there's going to be generally a bedding area. And that's somewhere that is a focal point, but yet it's something that you want to stay out of the comfort zone. You get too close to that bedding area, you're going to spook everything out. You want to just skirt that just enough where that you're not spooking the deer and you're not actually right in their bedroom. Deer are smart and they figure things out no different than we do, just on a different scale. If somebody's walking in my house, I'm going to know that they're there. Sight,
right.
Smell, hear you or something. I'm going to sense that something's there.
Right. That's a great point.
So you keep all that in mind, and then once you find these major trails, these deer or creatures of havoc, they're gonna usually, and I say usually, 95% of the time they're gonna walk their trails that they've got already either beat down or cut through, or they're gonna be some visual evidence of a deer trail. Once you've located that, then you gotta, like say here in Ohio, we got a predominantly west wind, so the wind's blowing west. So you got to think about wind and keep that in mind. The wind and the scent control is, one of the major factors of success in the whitetail woods.
Wow, cool.
All right.
And yeah, that's awesome.
Mike, let's go back to the original question.
Sure. So it would be gear, the top 3 pieces of gear.
Okay, top 3 pieces of gear. So we got off on a bit of a tangent, but there's so much to really go into that because the question is gear, right? And Dusty backed me up on this, but what you're using for gear will be dependent upon where you're hunting, the temperature, the conditions, the topography, all those things play out. Like, for example, let me ask you a question, Mike. What time of year are we going to hunt? Are we early season, mid season, late season? All those things kind of factor. And the reason I say that is because when the season opens up in September, especially in New England, it's hot and humid. It's going to be, you get those cool nights, but I know for sure that my base layer that I'm going to use later in the season, which will keep me warm in some of the, even some of the cooler most conditions, I'm not going to be wearing that base layer unless it's a really thin layer. And most likely it's going to be a scent type control piece of clothing. So it's going to be a thin underlayer that I'm going to wear under whatever else I'm putting on. Usually it's just some thin material type camouflage pants. I'm probably bow hunting. I'm not going to be gun hunting early season, so I'm not worried about my guns yet. I'm just making sure when I'm ready to go, I've got some kind of a camo pullover. I've got a face mask. I've got my hat. I've got a really thin base layer just to keep my scent down. I've washed completely in scent covering soaps, and I have my bow and arrow that's tuned, and I just do a double check to make sure it's all still in check. Nothing's broken. Nothing's out of whack. I probably shot some arrows the night before. And other than that, just make sure that I know where my release is for my bow. And the boots are everything. And I mean everything is outside in my screen room that's exposed to the air. There's nothing that comes inside at that point. And it's been outside for at least a week and a half.
Wow. Okay. So that's good prep work right there.
Yeah.
Very cool. There are specific, I mean, you kind of touched on some of the points of the timing, but like you said, early season, mid-season, late season, are there times of day that are targeted more? Are there times of day that deer are more, I guess, just more active?
Yes. Yes. If you go back to our interview that we did with Jim Stickles, he spent some time working under some of the greatest deer biologists known to the world. And he did some deer movement studies. And I'm looking at this from a subjective standpoint. Now, I'm going to ask Dusty to get his opinion as well. So my own personal experience is very much in line with what his findings, actually scientific findings, found, is that deer move during the majority of the hours called the corpuscular hours, which means that they're moving a little bit before dusk through a little bit after dusk to their feeding areas, and vice versa. In the morning, they're moving a little bit before sunrise to a little bit after sunrise, and then generally they're after the morning, they're going to their bedding areas. So there's a very small window of opportunity and literally we're talking probably prime time, 30 minutes is probably like the most active time they're going to be all day going to and from their feeding areas and their bedding areas, except for when you get into the mid-season when the rut's on, then things change specifically for the bucks, not the does.
Gotcha.
Dusty, you want to add on that?
Yeah, it can be based off of pressure in the area. There's a lot of scenarios. High pressure area, the deer activity is going to be after dark. Low pressure, they're going to feel more comfortable to move daylight hours. Jay, you pretty much touched base on the morning and evening. That's primarily. If you think about deer and yourself, you like to eat breakfast and sometimes a lunch is worked into your schedule. So the deer are kind of in a similar feeding habit, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And sometimes that gets, thrown out of course, no different than you or I. And that's something I consider too, that there's that possibility that midday movement's going to come for that afternoon lunching.
Right.
Yeah. And I would say that might be even midday. Now there's this whole other theory, and we've touched on this on the show numerous times. And it's really about these solunar tables. I don't know if you've seen these, but supposedly there's something to the activity of deer, and it can be predicted for a midday versus not midday, which is, you're, as a hunter, you're interested in daylight hour movement. That's when, because you can't shoot at night.
Right.
Right. So you want to know when the deer are going to be moving during the day and what times during the day are the most likely to be the most active. And a lot of that stuff, and I think the verdict's still out, and Dusty may have a different opinion, but the rule of thumb is that if the moon is directly below you or the moon is directly above you, those are the times, especially during the fall, when the season is on, that the deer are most likely to move during daylight hours, sometimes even midday. To go to feeding areas. Now, some of the greatest hunters we've ever talked to on the show, Mark Hammer, Steve Esker, those guys, I think, tune into that stuff more so than others. And likewise, they're shooting some of the biggest deer in America. So if those guys are tuning into it, I'm paying attention at a minimum. I don't know if the scientific community is going to back me up on this, because so far they say there's really nothing to it, but the hunters themselves, they're saying there's something around this.
Now, I guess a cool segue to go to next would be what kind of routines or rituals do you have, like, I don't know, like on the way to the site or on the way to your tree stand? Are there anything that you do that's kind of weird or different, or is it kind of just, laid back?
Is this
music?
Is this relative? Yeah, is this relative to what you might do for game time prepreration type things?
Yeah,
Mike?
That's
okay.
what I would do. I have my rituals, but I'm curious to hear what you guys have.
So rituals. The first thing that I do, let's say it's a morning hunt. Let's say I'm going to, and no matter what time of year it is, no matter what time of the season it is, my first ritual, provided that I'm not traveling to hunt, like if I'm traveling to Dusty's, this may not occur. But if I'm at home and I'm leaving from my quarters, I am definitely showering. The first thing, I'm getting up extra early just to take a shower. I just want to make sure that I've showered with some no-scent soaps and a variety of them, just to make sure I've got all my potential body odor off my body. I've even gotten to the point where I've started buying chlorophyll tablets from these, specialty grocery stores where you can buy these things that in chlorophyll will actually reduce your body odor internally so that you don't smell like a human as much as you would. Cool. They're just like green, green vegetable tablets basically, but they bind with the things that cause scent. So I'm washing the outside. I'm trying to clean it up internally. And my ritual is really a timing thing. Like I really, really, really want to get to the stand at least 45 minutes before sunrise. Because I think that as the world wakes up in the morning, and in the world, I mean the world of nature, if you are kind of making these waves of sound going through the woods, and you don't think about it necessarily, but it causes a disturbance. I try to walk softly, and Dusty says I have a heavy foot, but I try to walk as softly as I can and get into the stand as quietly as possible. I don't listen to music on the way in. I'm really tuning into the sounds I'm hearing on the way to the stand. And sometimes I might be driving a four-wheeler to a stand location before I get off, and then I spray down when I get there. I'm trying to spray down and keep any weird scent off of me as much as possible. But when I get there, I try to get all set up, get everything set. My bow's hung up. I've got everything comfortably. Hopefully I didn't make any banging sounds against the metal ladder. I'm just trying to keep everything as soft, as quiet as possible, but still listening for things around me. Because sometimes you'll jump a deer on the way in, or you might be hearing things moving around you. And I just want to kind of be cognizant of what's there. Other than rituals, I'm checking my phone. I'm checking the weather. I want to see what the weather's doing for the day. So I'll play with the Solunar table, see what the activity might be that day, see what time sunrise is, so I know when I'm actually legal to shoot, and then it's go time.
Cool. Now, I guess I think that's the perfect. My next question is the perfect question. It's now, what do you do when a deer walks in? When you're ready to go, all the elements are in front of you. What do you do when that deer comes through?
Dusty, you want to handle this one? Or you want me to?
No, I'll handle it. Okay. Just going from personal experience with several deer, and been real blessed to be fortunate in the whitetail woods. You can get by with a lot when a whitetail walks in. People say, "Yeah, you're crazy. There's no way." You really can. You got a deer coming in. They're going to be on alert. If you think that they don't know you're there, you're crazy to a certain extent. Slow movement. Say you need to raise your bow up. You gotta go into like a creep speed. The slowest movement you can make has the most likeliness of not getting caught in that movement. I believe in no eye contact with the deer. Just from experience, it seems like it works for me. Maybe it's a complete myth or craziness of my mind, but I try not to make eye contact with a whitetail when it's walking in. Super slow movement. Wait for your opportunity. The deer will hear something, or something will get its attention, and it'll look away. And this may not work 100% of the time, but 90% of the time, that opportunity will be presented when you can either raise your bow, draw your bow, or make that little tweak to your adjustment in your seat, or if you're standing, a little bit of a turn you need to make to draw the bow or your gun, either or. But just, keep in mind that deer is going to pick up any kind of movement, and it's going to get a red flag you. It's going to advertise where you're at. If that deer sees you move, the deer is not likely to be locked onto you for a long period of time. Now, when that deer locks onto you, it's going to raise and lower its head. And what that's doing is getting his three-dimensional vision on the object that it's locked onto. And it's a kind of a sense to make you think that it's got its head on its ground. It's not paying attention to you, but it's really trying to bluff you so that you make that wrong move, and it can recognize what's there. But, if you just keep in mind slow movement to no movement, and just relax and breathe and get your mindset and get your visual where you're going to place that shot at, you'll be successful.
I'll back that up 100%. And I agree with everything Dusty just said. And here's why I think that's true. if you think of a deer in the woods, and it is naturally a game animal, its natural predators would be wolves, bobcats, mountain lions, coyotes, man. And man isn't going to hunt the way a coyote is. But I would say in general, a coyote is probably the most prevalent predator that they have. So they're trying to figure out an escape. A coyote, so what they're looking for are quick bursts of movement, and that's an alert, or they're using their nose for smell. So if you've got your scent covered, then you're probably okay there. But as far as movement is concerned, let's say you got all the rest of the bases covered. Your scent is really in control. The wind's in your favor. So now all they're looking for, as they would when a predator is about to attack, they're looking for eyeballs and maybe, envision a coyote hanging out in a thick patch, just waiting for its opportunity to pounce, or a lion or whatever. Those white eyeballs, that's what you see if you're a game animal and the predator is coming to attack. And when they go to attack, it's quick movement. So whatever you can do to act not like a predator at that moment will be better. It'll keep them calmer, and you'll have a better opportunity for actually taking the shot. And I think about it, Mike, kind of in a sense of what a linebacker would do, watching the quarterback's eyes, trying to figure out where the pass is going to go.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. I think, and we're doing the same thing. We're watching them. We're watching their body language as well.
Right.
It's a cool, cat and mouse game.
Right. And I think that synopsis as to the cat and mouse game as to what are they going to do next kind of plays out in the deer woods. What's that deer going to do next? They're trying to figure out what you're going to do next if they're onto you. So any movement that indicates your next attack or next approach will give it away. So you have to be very aware of your movement when they're onto you specifically. If they're not onto you, that you might get away with a few things, but yeah, very much that thing.
That's awesome. I mean, that's such great information. I feel like we've kind of gone full circle from the gear, times, routines, approach. You know what I mean? Like, I feel pretty confident with this information. I think, my next step for me is actually going and applying it and working at it. Cause, just like anything, the more you practice it, the more you get familiar, and the easier those things become. And then it's about a little bit of luck then too, after that.
There's definitely a lot of luck. And I'd say a lot of it is preparation though, and the byproduct of hard work is luck, basically. When it and the same thing in football, same thing in life, same thing in the field. So you have to study the animal. You have to study your craft, what you're going after. You have to decide where these animals are most likely to pass through. Have they passed through recently? Are they now in your area where they weren't? Are they likely to show up at this particular time? And I'm not talking about just a few weeks of study. I'm talking about years of study. I'm talking about one giant map that you've had printed out on your wall, and you've kept data of every single place you've ever come across a deer trail, a dropping, a antler shed, deer sighting, a kill, whatever it is that goes on your map. And whether it's really on the map or on a different map or in a mental map, you always know what should happen in these scenarios, or when certain deer are coming into the area, or has that area changed? Has that one area where you've been hunting been turned into condos, or has it been logged recently? All those types of things, you always have to pay attention to all that stuff. And what happens in that area will directly affect your success in that particular spot for deer hunting.
Wow. That's incredible. That's awesome.
The map is a big one. And
yeah, that's a great key right there.
Especially where I'm at, because the terrain can change. There's a lot of forestry, there's a lot of logging. In New Hampshire, which is different than where Dusty is, necessarily have to have permission to hunt on certain pieces of property. So we're talking about vastness, where you can just get out and roam. But there's no agriculture for them to key on for the most part. So you've got to find those deer trails where they would most naturally roam, and they might be places that man hasn't been yet, or hasn't been in a long time.
Yeah,
so absolutely. That's why those maps come in very handy.
Very cool. That's a great key right there that I definitely want to take serious, and definitely up my game as far as the mapping side of it. I think that's a great point.
So Mike, let me ask you a quick question. So what is it that's capturing your attention about hunting? What is it that's intriguing you?
Well, I really got really interested really started getting really interested in it actually when I got into the NFL. I started this company, Roo Outdoors, and I started building some products I actually just for the sports side and the football side. And the application of it really started developing into the hunting, military, tactical side as well. And for me, obviously I want to learn more about the market, learn more about just the industry in general. And so, these last couple of years, I've really just been trying to dive in and learn as much as I can and meet, the people and decision makers and the people that are making really this industry go, which is why, I went to SHOT Show. I'm talking with you guys. Yep. And, just really trying to make the most of it and understand as much as I can.
So talking to these people in the outdoor world, you're trying to figure out how to start hunting, sounds like.
Yeah. That's really my next step for me is to find some time and to find a situation where I can do it.
Okay. So what have you found so far? I mean, it sounds like, you went to SHOT Show. You're talking to us, not that we're your greatest, greatest sources or resources, but
yeah, you are.
So what have you learned so far as a brand new hunter that is interested, but hasn't actually engaged in it just yet, but I'm sure you will this fall. And if you don't, then we're going to have some serious words. But what have you discovered so far that you think you're ready to engage in?
So, I think we've touched on a lot of those points too. It's really the preparation, and I think this and safety. Preparation and safety are probably definitely the top two things. And so I've been focusing on safety and going and register and get my first gun and plotting out some time with someone who knows the hunting world, with some friends and stuff that have done it, their entire lives. That way I'm going with people who understand the land, understand, how it's done, and is going to do everything the right way. That way I can learn it the right way and be able to teach and grow faster.
Gotcha. So one of the things that I've actually engaged in this year was the apprentice program in the state of New Hampshire, where a 40-something-year-old friend of mine approached me and said, "Hey, I'd really like to go hunting. Will you show me what to do?" And they have this program at Fish and Game where you can, for 1 year, you sign up as an apprentice. You don't need to buy your license, or you don't need to you don't have to take the hunter safety course, but you do have to go through the program as far as buying your license online as an apprentice. Then you can hunt with somebody the entire time. You can't hunt by yourself. You have to be with that experienced hunter. And it was probably we've done some deer hunting already. Certainly time constraints don't always play out, but the time that we spent together, I really, it dawned on me how much stuff I had stuck in my noggin and how rewarding it was just to let it back out. And share with somebody that was truly interested in learning how to do this. And one of the reasons that they were interested in doing this was to be outside, to engage in outside environment, but also to harvest the game and kill the game that is free range organic meats. That was the thing that they really wanted to get into, because they're more concerned about diets than they ever have been. And they thought that hunting might be a good way to add to their freezer, and give themselves some organic meats that you actually harvested. So I thought that was pretty cool. Like I'm game with this. I'm down with that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
One thing I like to add to this whole conversation is that you can't get no better experiences than actually being there and learning from your mistakes from the tree stand in the whitetail woods. You'll walk away for years saying, "Man, if I had only done that different or done this different," and that's how you learn a lot about the whitetail activity and what you can and cannot do, and mistakes that you'll make. And every time you go in the woods, you get educated a little bit further on how you should strategize and approach a whitetail hunt. And it's crazy just by being there what it educates you with.
That's cool. Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to, is just getting those experiences.
Mike, as a professional athlete, are you still engaged in the game?
Yes, absolutely.
And where are you at right now with your career? You've played for several different teams.
Yeah, so I've been in the NFL for 6 years now, and I love playing. I have an aspiration to do some coaching as well, and so I want to be involved in the game as much as I can.
Gotcha. And where do you see yourself going this year?
Well, actually, I'm actually in Mobile, Alabama right now at the Senior Bowl, talking with some coaches and just expanding my network as big as I can and seeing, what kind of jobs are available in the coaching side.
Yeah.
And then my agent, is on his side is working the player side and trying to find opportunities there as well. So we're kind of hitting it from all ends right now, and just trying to build, like I said, trying to build my network, meet people and see what kind of opportunities are out there.
Gotcha. So potentially playing in the NFL again,
yes,
as a quarterback, or potentially being a coach somewhere, to coach on in the NFL or even on a college scene.
Yeah, I think I'd like to start in the NFL, but I'm definitely not going to turn down anything in the college world.
Gotcha.
For sure.
Very cool. So it's kind of, in a sense, you're becoming that mentor that you're potentially bringing on an apprentice, in a sense, because you'd be teaching other people how to play a certain position at this level.
Yes, exactly. Yep. And I think that's been a passion of mine for a long time.
That's very cool. So I have a few questions I'd like to run down here, Mike, if I could. And these are some off-the-cuff questions we like to ask all of our guests. And the first one may not apply yet, but I want to get it out there. If you had to pick your number one hunting tip of all time, what would it be? And I'm sure you've probably heard a bunch of them over the last couple months while you're trying to investigate this whole idea of going hunting. But what's the best one you've heard so far?
Let's say I'll probably say the number one hunting tip would be just to shoot straight, right? I mean, you want to shoot straight.
Shooting straight is definitely
it's super simple. Just shoot it straight. You know, I think if you can line it up right and you shoot it straight, you're pretty good. Yeah,
if you do everything else right, but you don't shoot right, then
it
kind of blows the whole point of being there. No, I'm with you on that. All right. If you had, this might apply more to being a quarterback. We all have these things, and the question usually comes up: the thing you bring into the woods that's in your hunting pack that you bring in, it might be a good luck charm, a superstitious type of thing, actually, but it drives you nuts. It's almost like a routine, like a superstitious routine. If you don't have that thing with you, what's that one thing you got to have with you, or you feel naked without it? You just don't feel like you're going to play well. You don't feel like you're going to have a good hunt. You got to have it with you. What's that one thing for you?
And I usually have to have a watch on before I get to the facility.
A watch. So you got to bring a watch to the facility.
I just feel naked without my watch on.
Okay.
And then once you play the game, then I'm good.
Okay. Gotcha. As you've been researching this whole endeavor of hunting, what are some of the books that you've been reading or some of the magazines that you engage in to try to figure out what's what?
I have applied to a couple magazines that I've been getting information for, but I haven't really got into serious books.
Okay.
But what would you suggest?
I guess it depends on where you're hunting, but I guess I would start with probably North American Whitetail is a good one. Deer and Deer Hunting. Those are two of the better magazines that I've ever read.
I got Field and Stream.
Field and Stream. Perfect.
Is that solid?
Absolutely. Solid. Lots of great little tips in there. I think I'd start there. And then, you might want to check out an Audible book here and there. You can put it on your phone, put it in your headsets and listen to it while you're on a plane ride somewhere about hunting. There's some really good books out there that you can listen to, and then there's plenty to read. There's so many great hunting books. Maybe Fred Bear, for example. There might be some good stuff you can read about Fred Bear.
Cool.
All right. You meet a stranger in an elevator. You're in some location. Somebody walks in an elevator and they say, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" What do you say to them?
I typically tell them about Roo Outdoors, my company.
Okay.
And I kind of leave the football stuff secondary. I think that's probably the best way to do it. That way, you talk about the.
What did you have for breakfast today?
Actually, we went to a really great little cafe in Mobile. We had a burrito, like a breakfast burrito.
Yep.
And some cheese grits. It was unbelievable.
Wow. And is that standard operating breakfast for a professional NFL quarterback?
No, it was just because I was in Mobile. Usually I'm a few eggs, some spinach, oranges. I'm pretty simple.
Okay.
I'm a pretty simple eater.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I don't know if you've read about Tom Brady's diet recently, but certainly there's been some stuff thrown around about how, what's your view on that kind of stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I think Tom is, he has his ways and things he likes to do. And, everyone has their own, that has their own theories. I've seen guys that are just eating Big Macs day after day and still go out and play play good football. So it's to each his own on that side. I think diet is important, but, everyone has their own metabolism. Everyone, finds those energy in the food a different way. So,
okay, gotcha. All right. Let's say that you could have your own billboard anywhere in the country. What would it say on it?
What would it say on it? Oh, it would definitely be for Roo Outdoor.
Okay.
And we'd have the logo on it. We'd have some pictures of all of our products, and we'd have our slogan, which is "Embrace the Elements," and that really speaks a lot to the brand and the identity of the brand and what we're about. And we're about being outdoors and learning and growing and respecting the environment. And for me, as I grow as an outdoorsman, as a hunter, I look to carry that into the brand as well.
Okay. All right. And finally, and then I want to talk about Roo Outdoors a little more in depth here. When you hear the word successful, who's the first person that comes to mind and why?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say, I would probably say Bill Walsh. He was the head coach of the 49ers for a long time in the 80s and 90s. He was great because he changed the culture. He wasn't just a football coach or a quarterback coach or an offensive innovator. He changed the culture of an entire organization. I thought, that's really special and really difficult to do. And I think that I have a lot of respect for what he's done, and obviously Hall of Famer and, one of the best to ever do it.
Yes, I completely agree with you there. So let's talk about Roo Outdoors. And actually, before we get there, I have to ask you one final question. What's your Super Bowl prediction?
Super Bowl prediction? I think Carolina is pretty good. I think, offensively and defensively, they have some special guys there. I think it's going to be tough. Although, you're going against Peyton Manning and that defense. I mean, this is for one of the better Super Bowl matchups that we've seen probably in the last 10 years or so.
Gotcha. And Dusty, what do you have for a Super Bowl prediction?
Who's playing?
It's the Carolina Panthers against the Denver Broncos.
I'm going with Broncos.
All right, you got a score? You got a score for me, Mike?
Oh, Jesus, score. Let's go 17-14 Carolina.
Carolina. Dusty?
I'm going 23-10.
23-10. All right. I'm going Carolina in a blowout, 35-12.
Wow.
And here's how it all
4 field goals?
It's going to, well, no, actually it gets more interesting than that. It's going to be Carolina's going to score 27 points in the first half. They're going to have their typical blow you away kind of first half they've had the last several games. And then Denver is going to muster up 1 field goal, and they're going to get a safety on Cam Newton because they're going to have some kind of weird field position. But they're going to swarm Cam in the end zone and tackle him. So they're going to get a safety. But then they're going to peter out. They're not going to score anymore. Panthers are going to score a little bit more in the second half, but they're going to slow down like they have recently, but they don't need to score ananymore. And then there's going to be some junk points at the end for the Broncos. So at the end, it's going to be
creativity.
Yes. So 35-12, Carolina Panthers. That's my prediction.
There we go.
So let's talk about Roo Outdoors. What is Roo, and where did it come from? How did you start it?
Right. So I started it a few years back, really out of necessity. As I, was developing, as football developed and all the products basically around football, from the shoes to the gear, helmets, shoulder pads, everything was evolving. The hand warmer was really one thing that hadn't evolved in, probably 20, 25 years. And so for me as a quarterback, my hands are the most valuable part, of receiving the football. And so, that was something I really wanted to look into and develop and make a product that was better and up to date.
And what kind of products are we looking at here?
So right now on RooOutdoor.com, you'll find our premier product, which is the Roo Inferno hand pouch. And we have really 2 models. One that's sport, which is obviously geared towards sports, football, soccer, golf. And another side that's the terrain side, which is built for the outdoorsman. We have one that's mossy oak, breakup infinity camo. And then we have some other colors that are more neutral colors, more tone color.
Okay. And any other products that you're working on?
So right now we're really focusing on just the fall season, so the football and the hunting seasons. And we're in development right now to do some stuff for summer and spring, which will be more in the apparel side. So just like we were talking about some of the scent blocking, which will also have, antimicrobial properties. That's, really cool high-tech gear, which would be really awesome.
Gotcha. All right. Any other questions for me or Dusty?
You know what? This was so cool. I mean, been on for about an hour now, and I think, this has really been very educational for me. I'm looking forward to doing some more research, and, if I definitely have some more, I'll definitely be hitting you up.
Sounds like you're looking to potentially develop some more products by talking to hunters about their experiences and the things that they find important.
I wholeheartedly believe that's the best way to go about it.
Gotcha. All right. Very good. So how old are you now, Mike?
28.
You're 28 years old. You're only 2 years older than Cam Newton, who, unlike myself, who's much older, when I get hit, I break. When you guys get hit, you bend. That's why I think Cam Newton's going to win the Super Bowl, because let's face it, Peyton Manning, he's 39 years old. If he gets hit, he's broken. That's the difference. Yeah. He's not quite as pliable as he used to be. So if you, being 28 years old, what would you tell the 18-year-old Mike Kafka?
Oh man, what would I tell him? I would tell him, actually, I wouldn't probably change anything. Where I'm at right now, I don't really have many regrets on what I've done collegiately, high school, all of that stuff. I think, continue to work hard and, be a good person, be humble. And I think those things will pay off and get some good opportunities in the future. And right now, I feel like I'm in a good position in my life, great family.
Gotcha. Very cool.
I appreciate you guys having me on. This was fun.
Yeah, very cool. Dusty, you got any final questions for Mike?
No, I don't. Best of luck and get out there and
Thank you.
Get after them whitetails and good luck.
Yeah. I'll definitely have some stories for you when I get out there.
Cool.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Dusty. You guys are great. This is fun.
Thanks to Mike for joining us on the Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. That was an absolute pleasure talking to that guy.
Yeah, for sure. And it dug into our magic bag and got us to voice out some of the things that we do and strategize about. And man, it's super crazy to be on the other side of the questions, Jay.
It is interesting. We're usually the ones asking the questions, and I guess you don't realize how much you kind of retain until somebody asks you those questions themselves. And I don't feel like we even came close to what we know. I mean, I felt like I could be here for hours explaining all the things that I know to be true about deer hunting, and all the things that I know that not to be true, or things that you won't ever know until you're sitting in the seat.
Yeah, and it's super different to be able to understand. This show is usually a very knowledgeable hunter, and to have somebody on like Mike that the knowledge is not there. And it goes to show you that the podcast is super beneficial for new and upcoming hunters, and that's something that we don't want to overlook, and we want to focus on at some point in time. And just so happened that now's the time. And man, it felt to me that somebody that's just new into hunting can really, really pick up on some great tips and some information that will help them get into the woods.
I agree. I thought that was just a great way to approach this show, is to just let us talk a little bit and have Mike ask some questions while we also learn about him and try to feel where he's coming from. What types of issues is he facing? Types of questions does he have starting out afoot in the deer hunting woods?
Yeah, and that's something that I think, Jay, that you agree with me on this, that I want to kind of give an invitation out to. I'd like to do that again at some point in time here. And if you are a new hunter and you're listening to the show and you got some deeper questions that you'd like to get into, we'd be interested in talking with you about it. And maybe we can, shoot us a message or email dusty@bigbuckregistry.com or jay@bigbuckregistry.com, either or. And maybe we can set something up and kind of run through some questions that you may have and see if it's something that we'd like to cover on the show. And I think that I'd be super interested in doing that with another guest.
Yeah. And I think, and I'm going to go even a step further, that if you're a newer hunter and you're trying to figure this stuff out, or if you're an old hunter and you just need an answer, we may be able to get you an answer if we don't know the answer ourselves. So I think we may even, and this is kind of just an idea, but we may even start another podcast but have those answers here on this show, but just have those answers apply to a totally different question and answer type podcast where you can actually listen to your question be answered by us or somebody else that we think is better suited for that.
Yeah, that'd be a great thing for all the hunters that are joining us every week.
Listener submitted questions. I think it's the way to roll, man.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So speaking of knowledge and tips on hunting. Do you have a Chubby Tines tip of the week this week?
Yeah, we do, Jay. And I'm going to touch base on predator hunting. It's something that you need to focus on. It's just part of being a conservationist for your land and your deer herd. And, coyotes right now seem to be more active than they are any other time of year, here in the Midwest, the cold climates and low food source. And they're on the move, daylight hours, dark, just take time to focus on that. Even if it's just for a couple weeks, and even if you're not an experienced trapper or somebody that's experienced in predator hunting, get out there and experience that. It's something that's very enjoyable, and you take 3 or 4 coyotes off one piece of land, you're going to increase your herd population for years to come. Just something I thoroughly enjoy, and I think that all the listeners will do the same if they just get out and put the effort in to try it.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with that. Predator hunting, I've started doing some. I took a nice long walk, starting to look for some sheds, actually. And some of my latest pictures as of today, I have a spike buck that walked in with only 1 antler. So that the time is here. I know things are starting to happen with these antlers, so it's time to find sheds and do some predator hunting. I think that's a wrap, my friend. Where can we find you when you're not hanging out here on the mic with me?
You can shoot me an email here at the Big Buck Registry. That's dusty@bigbuckregistry.com. Look me up on Facebook, facebook.com/Chubby Tines Outdoors. And also you can hit me up on Instagram @Chasing Antler. Jay, where can they reach out to you when you're not on the mic?
You can find me by email, jay@bigbuckregistry.com. That's the best place. You can find us on Twitter, twitter.com/BigBuckRegistry. You can check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/BigBuckRegistry. If you'd like to submit a photo to be featured on the Big Buck Registry Facebook page and be famous in front of 220,000 plus followers, all you have to do is go to BigBuckRegistry.com/MyBuck. If you'd like to pledge support to this show because you like it, I would invite you to visit BigBuckRegistry.com/pledge or donate. And if you, would like to call into the show, give us a call at 724-613-2825 and leave us a message or a question. Be happy to play it right here on the show. Thank you to Jim Keller for the deer news. Thank you to our guest, Mike Kafka, and good luck with his adventure with Roo Outdoors. Thank you to Parker Maloney, who helps us with the music on this show. And thanks to you, Dusty, for joining us on another Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast.
Man, that's a whole lot of big buck.
Whole lot of big buck.
So I'm Dusty Phillips.
And I'm Jay Scott.
And you're listening to the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast. We'll see you next week.
Can't wait.